Oh my. All right, we are now live there. All right, let us basically dig in here. But before I do, just have to actually let us start the audio. We are live in. Okay, so here we go in. Right, here we go in three, in two, and one. Welcome back, everyone, to another exciting episode of Aaron's Opinion. Very glad to be behind the microphone again after my little vacation, my little hiatus that I took here. So, welcome back. Tonight, whenever you watch and listen, we're joined tonight by our next guest, our next great friend in the community, EJ the Phoenix. You are quite the character, and you have a great singing voice, great voice for podcasting, which means only one thing. You must have a great story to back up such a great voice. Who is EJ the Phoenix? Start from the start, start from the beginning. And I'm going to go ahead and mute and let you talk for a bit. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Well, EJ the Phoenix, my real name goes by Eduardo Jose Gonzalez Colon. I happen to be born in the beautiful islands of Isabela, Puerto Rico, so Spanish happens to be my native tongue. I was born in November 30th of 1996, and I definitely had such an unbelievable, time, just performing as a little boy. I had my humble beginnings at the age of 3 in kindergarten, which is where everything else just took off. And from that point on, it just became something that originally for me, I didn't want to do. Like, I didn't see it as a possibility of me just, oh, this is what I want to do. I originally wanted to go with the plans of being an astronaut and be, quote unquote, the first man with albinism to set foot on the moon. But science is not exactly my forte. Mathematics are not exactly my forte either. But, I give it my absolute best. I know the basics, just adding, subtracting, things like that, the important stuff. And, but I happen to be very captivated by music, which is something that I love to this day, and I love very, very, very much. And one of those things, just, when I went to my first talent show at the age of 4, all thanks to a beautiful, beautiful teacher that happened to be my kindergarten teacher. Her name is Yolanda Roman. She happens to be the pioneer of why each and every one of you guys know me now as EJ the Phoenix. She's the person that put me on the map. And from that point on, she took me to talent shows. I even got to show up live on TV in Puerto Rico in a program called Que Suerte, which translates to How Lucky. And it was hosted by this amazing man called Hector Marcano. And he hosted the show, and I got to be a part of a contest called Singing with the Stars. Unfortunately, I didn't win the contest, but winning isn't everything. What matters is participation and letting yourself be known. And that was something that at a very young age I had to learn little by little. Because I'll be honest, there were times that I wanted to win competitions, things like that. But overall, I learned something very important, which is having a sense of humility. Knowing that even though you might not be as good at something, you're still gonna try to get better and be the better version of who you are meant to be. And that has always been the competition that I share is being better than the man I was yesterday. And that's the primary objective I go for in my profession and in my line of work. And of course, I like being mysterious because, a phoenix bird happens to be such a mysterious creature that not a lot of people knows about and that very few have been able to see because it's always flying in the tapestry above the clouds. And I like giving no more, no less, but, of course, letting myself be known, but keeping the element of mystery and, mystic and spirituality factors and things like that. And of course, I try my best to project what I like to call a phoenix mentality, to never say die, to never quit, always rise from the ashes. And, for somebody that had those beginnings, it's not just the success, it's also the failures. I obviously, wasn't always successful. I was somebody who was bullied in school and suffered from being a victim of bullying. And it's something that follows me to this day, because we live in a world that unfortunately ignorance is bliss. And most people have grown so used to the fact that, they never seen something or someone with the disabilities that I have, which is albinism. I was born with albinism and visual impairment. And most people that don't know what they don't know, they fear it, because unfortunately in the world we live in today, that's always the first choice, to fear the unknown and judge a book by its cover. Only very few, would take away time to get to know me and understand me and try to, encourage me to understand that it is not our disability that defied me, but rather who I was at heart. And I try my best to be, a humble person, and of course, be loving, caring, give everybody a chance, and trust those who've earned, and of course, just have that loving passion into what you do, whether it is being a chef, whether it is being a singer, whether it is being a composer. It's just keep being passionate, keep pushing, and keep being driven. And that is the kind of man EJ the Phoenix is.
I absolutely love it. Just love it. I knew when I heard your voice in my group and when I heard you on Visioncast, I was like, this guy's going to be great. And I was right. I was right. And I'm not going to be humble and say, oh, well, I was a little bit wrong. No, I was 100% right. You're fantastic. You're fantastic. And I don't need to be humble about
Appreciate
that,
that.
because you know what? You know what? Here's the thing. You're fantastic. In addition to singing, has anyone told that EJ the Phoenix, has anyone told you, you're a great philosopher? God gave you a great mind to think about living and to think about our existence. Has anyone mentioned that to you? Because you're an absolutely brilliant, brilliant person. The fact that you took the time to say that, the people's first choice when you meet someone is to basically discriminate and to look at the disability. When I look at you, I would definitely think, oh, that's EJ the Phoenix. He probably has albinism and wants to be an astronaut. That's probably what I would think about EJ the Phoenix. But you're so right. No, I've never met anyone named EJ the Phoenix who has albinism who wants to be the first person to walk on the moon with albinism. I've
You
never
have
met that.
now.
I've never met that combination, but it's a combination I love, because it's a combination that from a small child gave you some inspiration, some energy, some sense of adventure, and
Yes.
that's truly what living is about. My story is very similar to yours. I certainly am not a Spanish speaker. I am a French speaker. I was born here in the States, Aaron Samuel Richmond. But I also had many of the same experiences. I have been harassed and bullied in many different ways, from childhood, teens, even
Right.
afterwards in workplaces as an adult. And now I'm 32 years old. So, I mean, it goes without saying that being harassed and being bullied and being treated poorly by society over a period of time, it affects you, it affects me for sure. So
Yes.
I completely understand what you mean by all of that. But you're so right, and it's also important for us to stand up and realize the value humility, and realize that we need to try to keep improving. As long as
Yes.
we keep improving, we're moving, we're taking steps in the right direction. So good. What a great intro. So you've been singing a long time, man, and I love your podcast voice and I love your singing voice. So you know that you aren't getting out of here with singing stuff. So we started out kind of philosophical. Now let's get kind of artsy, and let's dig into some music. So
Absolutely.
sing some beautiful. What I want to hear an original EJ the Phoenix, where you can sing in Spanish in a very calm and a very like beautiful ballad, sort of magical, soothing way. Because you love singing heavy metal, and I love that, but you also have this beautiful voice. Like, sing for me for a bit. Talk about your music and sing some stuff to get us
Oh, sure.
to sing. Sure.
Well, definitely. Well, I have a song that I currently released recently. It's not in Spanish, but it is in English. Most of my music just happens to be in English, because most of the captive audience that I currently have is mostly, from the United States. But I do intend, of course, to impact people from the Hispanic communities because I did actually got interviewed by a podcast that they speak Spanish called C Premium Studios, and they gave me the opportunity to be there. And the interview was full blown Spanish, so to be able to represent my roots and speak in my native tongue definitely was something amazing. So the song that I'm gonna sing is it's a song that I did recently. It's called Emotions, and this one is in English. To sing a little bit, here it goes. There is no price tag for love. There is no price tag for affection. There is no price tag for these emotions because they all come from the Lord. Why can't we just get along? Why can't we see the writings on the wall? Human emotion never came from the riches of the world. They all came from the Lord. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, your voice is so graceful. You have this really controlled, graceful, soothing voice. I mean, that's just so touching. That's so good. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
really, 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 really interesting. No, it's intriguing that your much of your music is in English rather than, or I don't even want to say rather than, but it's interesting that it's in English rather than Spanish. Only
I
because
have
a
done
lot of
covers. I have
some
done
native
covers in
Spanish,
Spanish, but
because
other
why?
than
What?
that, oh, I have done covers like
Hmm.
songs from other artists in Spanish. I do have a song that it is released onto my YouTube channel that is called Volver a Empezar, which means to start again. And it
Hmm.
is on my album called My Refuge, which is a YouTube exclusive album that I did. And you guys could check that out on the archives on my YouTube channel. It's like all the way down there because it was in the back in my GarageBand days that I started producing before I got introduced to Logic Pro. But
Hmm.
overall, once I got upgraded from GarageBand to Logic, I noticed how much control I had, and not to mention, of course, I was able to really just showcase my level of creativity and be able to have a little bit more freedom to just spread my wings and let the creativity shine. But as I've said about the whole concept of singing in Spanish over English, there's another song that I also did recently that is actually available on iHeartRadio. It's called International, and I did this song with my dear friend Danny Jackson, better known as H Streets, who I believe you might have interviewed. And
Not haven't gotten. Yep. Yeah, you're right there in the chat. Haven't interviewed Denny yet. Hoping to maybe they'll be the next interview. So yeah, haven't gotten to Denny yet. Right, exactly.
But
Hmm.
yes, him and I we collaborated on a song called International, and it's a mix of English, Spanish, Hawaiian, Brazilian, let's see, Italian, and what else? Oh, and African, of course. But the main languages that we use was our native tongues, which is Spanish, and then of course English, because we know a little more. And the parts that we basically said in the other languages, actually, one of them was praise him. In African is Guyabeshi, and then in different languages from Italian to Hawaiian to Brazilian, and then of course my native tongue, we were saying that God is our savior, because in one of the scriptures, basically says that every tongue from wisest to young will declare that Jesus is our Lord and Savior. And we kind of wanted to recreate this into the song International as a way to, pay respect to not just our roots, but everybody worldwide. And so we got into Google Translate and we learned the sentence and how to say it in its different language. It took us a while, but we got it down. And that's the song that is, my latest single with H Streets. It's called International.
Really good. Really, really good. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's really good. We'll definitely check that out. And so a lot of people, EJ, will come to me and they'll say, Aaron, I'm blind and I want to get into the music business and I want to get into music production. So let's go over that fact, if you don't mind. Let's go over the ingredients of music production and all the steps you take to produce a song from A to Z. What do you think?
Well, definitely everything is a matter of not just simply having the skills in this, but one particular skill is patience. That is the
Hmm.
biggest thing that you gotta have in making music because you will make mistakes. Sometimes technology isn't always gonna work accordingly right off the bat. Like, for example, for me in particular, sometimes I happen to, add a lot of different instruments. And so it creates a system overload error on my Logic Pro software. And sometimes I will have to freeze everything so that way every the levels don't start to spike up. However, I would definitely say it's patience because you are going to make mistakes. When I first was introduced into this whole concept of music production, I had no clue what to do, especially with GarageBand. So I started up just messing around with Apple loops and adding different, sounds and mixing them all together. And it wasn't until then I started exploring the MIDI plugins and things like that. Started familiarizing myself with what compressors do, what limiters do, what faders do, reverb, echo, pitch correction, and things like that. And it took me some time to, really implement this into my arsenal, but, practice makes perfect. And the biggest thing is, I always say, is just be patient. You might not know what you're doing at that current present moment, but you will. You just gotta keep doing it because the more you do it, the better you get. But when it comes to
Absolutely.
a good song, what makes a good song is a good message. For one, it's not so much the track. The track is, yes, it's important and it plays such a huge factor. But a good message is what complements everything, what puts it all together. And the second, and then lastly, is emotion projection. When you're singing, whether you're rapping or you're doing what I do, heavy metal screaming, you want to be able to project the emotion and captivate the captive audience. Because otherwise, if you're not getting the attention of the audience, you're not doing your job right. You can have the best looking track and the best looking lyrics. If you're not projecting the emotion that goes accordingly to what the song is being written about or what the track is projecting itself, you're not doing your job. So that would be the top three things that I would definitely, well, four. Patience, uh, a good message, a good quality track, and most importantly, emotion projection. That's what I will definitely say is what makes a good
And
song.
I completely agree. Could not agree more. And also, the patience is definitely key for podcasting. So there's so much
Oh yes, I mean
similarity.
passion,
Yeah,
absolutely. That's such a huge factor too.
absolutely. But I said, patience is critical in my area of podcasting as well. When you're a podcaster, you also have to be very patient for a very long time until something happens. So you're very right.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, that's really good. Um, and so yeah, so you definitely were able to convey your emotions and convey your messages very, very, very clearly, Yeah, yeah. So, what are some of your musical goals, and what are some of your musical dreams that you want to be able to accomplish now that you're on my channel and on many other YouTube channels?
Well, for one thing is, as I always have come to say to myself, is I want to be the best version of myself that I can be. For one, for two, I want to be able to use every tool accessible to me that allows me to succeed as a way to give other people who are looking to start, who are looking to make their dreams come true, to pave the way for those people because I feel that everyone has a dream. that, has the right to be manifested. Everyone has the right to claim success. And that's one of the phrases I say on my song, Dare to Dream. We all have the right to claim success. And I want to be able to pave the way for those who are looking to be successful, because success doesn't come to those who are prosperous. They come to everyone, because another phrase I say in my song, Dare to Dream, we all have a gift that shines from within. And it's a matter of showcasing it to the world. And that is one of my many goals, is I want to showcase my gift, but give others the chance to showcase the gift that they possess, so that others can, have that chance. Because giving people a chance comes such a long way, and I'll be honest, to this day, record labels and things like that haven't exactly given me a chance. But the fact that I've been able to partner up with people like Vision Cast, the fact that you have been so graceful in having me here and being able to partner up with Aaron's Opinion, and not to mention Super Hit Mix Radio that are helping us out, it's the ultimate reward for me. For me, it's not so much the fame and the spotlight, it's just being able to stand out for those that have the same dream, that share the same vision, and to let them know, hey, I'm here with you and I want to be able to help you just as much. And that's the main goal, is I want to be able to use my gifts for what God has intended, and that is to be the light in the darkness.
You're so right. You're so right. Or to be the Phoenix named EJ.
Oh yeah.
Right. Right. Exactly. So, our childhoods are filled with all sorts of entertaining tales and stories. My childhood was filled with me listening to talk radio probably from the age of, birth till, now. So I've always been around talk radio and podcasts and content far before we ever called it a podcast. I was listening to stuff in the 90s. And that's really how, okay. That's really how I developed my love for being a content creator. Is my whole life from childhood till now has been consuming audio material and consuming content. And that's just how I learned how to do this over a period of time of constantly listening. So you were saying how you had a lot of interesting experiences, in your childhood. What are some funny things? I can tell that some really hilarious things have happened to you in your childhood too. So what's something really
Yes.
funny that happened to you? And then what's something really spiritual? Let's talk about the spirituality, but tell me some funny stuff that happened to you while you were growing up.
Well, one of the funniest things, actually, believe it or not, it was exactly on the day of my talent show. I had somebody that was originally doing the sound check and everything, checking up that the microphone was great. And I saw him, and it happened to be the dad of one of my cousins, and I knew that was him. And all of a sudden, I thought, maybe my way of saying hello is just going directly to him, grabbing the microphone and doing the whole check, 1, 2, 3. So I go over there and I do it. And I keep in mind there are people there. Not a lot of people, but there's still people there checking to make sure that everything is heard. And as soon as they hear me, the whole place just blows out, just screaming and making noise and chanting. And I was like, that was unexpected. and for the little bit of crowd that there was, I was so shocked. And that to me is like the funniest thing, because originally you would expect people, the person in the soundboard to be mad and the person who had the microphone to be mad. Rather, they were all like, oh my God, this guy is meant to do this. And I was just laughing the whole time.
That's so
My mom
cute.
had to go and get me. It's like, what are you doing?
That's so cute. That's adorable. That's adorable. Yeah, I played the flute for many years as a musician, all through childhood and university, and I was going to talent shows, auditioning for music camps in the summer, and I did that for many years, and I had a lot of experiences like that. And just being a soloist for a moment, just having that moment when you're able to connect with the audience, just like we're doing here, it's truly special, because here's the other thing about philosophy, and you were talking about how you've really thought about decisions and the way our brain processes things, right? Here's the reality, EJ. This moment right here in history, this is the only moment that is this only moment. This is the moment. There's no moment that will be like this moment. And 10 moments from now, it will not be the same as this moment right now.
Oh, yeah.
And that's truly why that's powerful, is because you recognize as a child, wait, this is special. This is my moment. And that's truly cool. Yeah. I can tell that you have some spiritual stuff going on in there. And don't tell me there's not, because I can feel it.
Oh no, I have nothing to hide. Trust me.
Okay, well, don't hide it. What's your spirituality? Go. Let's talk about that. Go.
So as far as spirituality goes, I don't consider myself to be religious in any way. I say this actually in my description. I am not religious. I have a strong relation with God. That's all there is to it. Lots of people will try to put a label on it, like, "Oh, are you Catholic? Are you Jewish? Are you this? Are you that?" I'm like,
"Oh,
no.
I'm Jewish. I'm Jewish."
And that's okay. That's okay. At the end of the day, God will bless you if you do what you do for Him. At the end of the day,
right?
I have no problems with people being Catholic or Jewish. If that is what it's accommodable to you, continue to do it. Never change that. Just keep going down that path, because our paths are different, and they're different for a reason. You see, I can learn from you and you can learn from me. And that is the whole sole reason why we're so different, is because we are able to achieve so much with each one having their level of creativity, level of spirituality, level of understanding. And that to me has always been something that as an adult I've come to understand. Everyone is different. Don't try to change somebody, because you're going to fail. Change begins with you, meaning you and you alone can change yourself. I cannot change you. You can change yourself. And that's always been one thing that I try my best each and every day to become more and more familiar, to understand and respect people's difference in opinion, whether it is politics, whether it is Christianity in particular. Personally, for me, I try to steer clear from things that divide, because God has called me into this world not to divide, but to unite. So that's why I make music. And if I were to talk about something, I would talk about food, because food brings people together. You will never see somebody disagreeing if a dish is good. Like if you're having a nice rack of ribs, you honestly think that somebody's going to be like, "Oh, this is disgusting." No, they're going to be like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." if you're somebody in a bad mood eating good food or jamming to good tunes.
You're right. You're right. Let me go back and say something. Thank you for reminding me of that great life lesson, because that's exactly the life lesson that I understand now as a 32-year-old. And I wish that I had understood that lesson 10 years ago and 20 years ago, because that wisdom could have saved me then. Well, no, probably not. I was probably a hopeless case 20 years ago. But the fact is, that life lesson is so worth it and so good. And you are so right. And if you're dining with me, we could be eating ribs, but for me, I have a pretty advanced palate. You see, like I said, I'm a French speaker, so I love French food. I don't know if you were in the room when we were talking, when I was interviewing the whole experience here at VisionCast. We were talking about French food. And we were talking about how I love the liver and the organ meat that French people eat. So when I go to France, I eat all the parts of the animal, and it's so good, so good.
I don't think that I was there, but it's like I always say, everybody will have a different particular perspective or different kind of flavored food. And to me, that's okay. I'll be honest, even at a certain point, I might wind up giving it a shot if it's really that good.
But let me tell you, it's really that good. But let me also tell you, don't tell Stacy that, because she heard about that and she was like, "Oh my God, that's disgusting. I would never, ever, ever eat that." So don't tell. So don't tell Stacy I told you. Just don't give her any. Okay.
Secret safe.
The dish is called rognon de veau. Okay, it's the only thing you need to know, and it's the best thing ever. But you are so right. You know, coffee. The other thing is coffee. Coffee unites
I
us too.
love
I
coffee.
I love coffee too, man. I love coffee too. I love coffee from all over the world, and you know, Eastern Africa and all those countries. What about? I'm really not familiar with Puerto Rican things. What about what's the coffee from Puerto Rico? Does Puerto Rico have like their famous coffee?
Oh yeah, we do. Lots of coffees like very similar. Like for example, Las Chaves, Café de Bono. We have a lot of types of, and it's not just the coffee, it's the food itself. When Christmas
Yeah.
comes along, I swear we go all out. We do our famous arroz con pollo, which is rice and chicken. We do some pasteles, which is made out of plantain, and it's kind of like a nice little puree with, ground beef or chicken, and you
Mm.
stuff that in there with some potatoes. Some people like putting olives on it. I'm not a huge fan of olives. I personally prefer it just as it is with some potatoes, some beef, and just put that thing on the top of the rice, and then some a turkey leg or chicken leg, good to go. Not to mention, we also do something called bacalaitos, which is codfish, and we fry
Hmm.
that thing on some nice batter, and it's like a nice circular shape. And we do it so large, almost as big as my head, literally as big as my head. But it's so good, especially the edge is nice, crunchy, very salty. Like we lightly season it just, for some flavor, but codfish in it of itself is already salty as it is. So we try not to overdo it, but our famous rice and chicken and things like that, it goes very well. Not to mention Christmas, we do something called coquito, which is kind of like eggnog, believe it or not.
Mm.
Very thick consistency, but it has coconut. Some people go all out and put some cinnamon sticks just for the cinnamon
Oh man.
flavor, and then they'll add either donku or bacardi. And some people prefer just the virgin version. I prefer non-alcoholic myself because of the fact that I do like drinking in special occasions, but I never go over one because of the fact that I'm trying to look out for, my vital organs, of course, my lungs. I want to be able to sing for as long as I can. So I try to steer clear from things that could be harmful. But in special occasions like Christmases, anniversaries, weddings, I don't see why not. You only live once.
Absolutely, and that eggnog drink sounds absolutely delicious.
It's
Sounds
called
like
coquito.
it sounds like the type of thing that I would have with some nuts or like a cookie as like a nighttime snack. That
Oh,
sounds
you can add
so.
whatever you want. That's the best part of it all, is you can customize it however you want. There are people that
Mhm.
customize it with Nutella. Some people actually put cookie crumbs. Like they customize it however you like. That's the best part of that
It
awesome
would
drink.
that would be so fun. That would be so good, so
Oh yeah.
good. Absolutely. Well, that's really good. Well, we got off on a great tangent there. I just asked you about coffee, and then you're giving me a whole menu. I just wanted coffee. But
No, we
um,
keep our options open, definitely.
oh well, that's good. Well, that's really good. That's really good. It's interesting because I've been all over the world in Western Europe, like I said, France and Eastern Europe, and I don't know. In Europe, you would think that they would have a lot of different choices, but in some countries in Europe, they don't have nearly as many choices as you think they would. So it's always good to have a lot of options, as you say.
Exactly.
Definitely, so good, so good.
Oh yeah.
And so what are in addition to and on top of all of your musical projects? So what about the other thing that you would be great for? I think. What about like voice acting? Have you ever used? Because I know I say it a lot, but you really have this magical voice. You have this really controlled, beautiful way of projecting your voice. Is really stands out to me. So has anyone said, "Hey, EJ, you should be a voice actor"? What do you think about that?
I love voice acting, and crazy enough, as you mentioned that, I was actually playing one of my favorite games called Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, and some characters take forever to say their lines. So what I would wind up doing is I'll try practicing my acting skills because I did used to be in drama club back in high school,
I can tell.
and from that point on, I was like, I feel like voice acting would be cool to try. And I started trying. I started kind of making up lines as I was hunting down playing Call of Duty Zombies, which is
Mm-hmm.
one of my favorite mode. And usually every time I would take down somebody, I would come up with a line of my own. Like, for example, you want me dead? Sin better. And I would come up with my own lines and try to create a character. Like, sometimes I would add a little bit of bass. Or sometimes I would like to add a bit of raspiness and make myself look a little more intimidating. But a lot of the times it's like, it just comes up with the fact that I've also heard a lot of different actors do it. And so I try to implement what they do into what I do in a way that it's, accessible to me. But voice acting, I would absolutely do it. And I always tell that to my family, like, if music doesn't work for me, I want to do voice acting. But so far, music has been working. But who's to say I can't do both?
You can. You can definitely. You can definitely. Some people really are gifted with a voice. I was apparently given a voice to be a public speaker and a podcaster, and you were given a voice to be a singer and things like that. But yeah, no, I definitely think voice acting in that type of arena where you're voicing a gruffer, more aggressive character, but also too with your voice, you can also be like a comedian because you also kind of have like a comic, almost like kind of you kind of sound the only way I can in my mind it's like you're being really serious with me, which is great, and then at the same time I could also hear you in my mind telling jokes that I would be laughing really hard to because you also kind of have that like comedy flavor back there. I can just hear that comedian in the back of your voice somewhere too. Have you thought about that?
I have variations. Like a lot of people, that's the best part of me is, again, the whole Phoenix mystery type is I allow people to pick and choose, like, what they see. But I
Yeah.
like keeping a lot of different variations open because if you think about it, the world of art, whether it is podcasting, whether it is music, whether it is being a producer, director, chef, carpenter, you name it, the network is endless. And I feel that, I want to try as much as I can, from voice acting to comedy, from reading books, like being a narrator and things like that. I feel that I could definitely pull anything that my mind desires because in the world of creativity, your only limitation is your own imagination.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So when you use your imagination, to which I can feel the imagination, just you're so plugged in.
Oh, yeah, I'm a
You're
dreamer.
oh yeah, well guess what? Well guess what? I'm awake. But so don't be one of these people that sleeps all the time and says, "Well, I'm living the dream. I'm living the dream, man." Well guess what? Sometimes you have to wake up,
Oh,
you
yeah,
know.
absolutely. Living in the
But
present moment, as you said.
I'm glad that you're a dreamer, and that's important in life is to have dreams. It's also important to have realistic goals. That's another trick, to have goals
Absolutely.
that you can reach. But
Now the thing is, as my friend Danny
sure,
just said on the chat, dreams
yeah,
are too valuable to miss.
some of them. Some
Yes.
of them are. It does depend upon the dream, Denny. But yes, you have the idea. Dreams are certainly valuable.
Hmm.
Some people, I'm sure you have a great answer. Some people in the scientific and, psychology community would say that dreams are actually a reflection on our subconscious. In other words, maybe our past life or other other lives that we're kind of living spiritually. I don't know. What do you think about that? I'm sure you've given that thought.
Well, I have, and I'll be honest. My brother happens to be somebody who sees everything in the aspect of science, but at the same time, I try to get to grab what he gives to me, and of course, I take it with a grain of sand because I have, of course, my spiritual principles, and one thing I try to do is stick with my principles, not give one away out at the expense of gaining a new one, you know. But I definitely, when it comes to the science community, I respect it 100% because, they're able to, they have been able to discover so much, like, from exploring different planets to, you know, coming up with with the concept of, as you said, dreams being maybe from a past life, and it does trigger curiosity. And I definitely am okay with the aspect of people sharing that perspective, because I know that my brother is one of them, and I completely respect that 100%. I'm somebody that, if that's what you're in for, to each its own. I will do my absolute best as well to learn, so that way I can furthermore respect that particular perspective, which is part of, what I do is just, try to learn a bit more of why people see things the way that they do. So that way, when you're getting into a conversation or a friendly debate, it doesn't wind up into a disaster, Because sometimes it happens. Sometimes it happens. And that's just the passion within us. Is, we're so passionate about particular subjects, like from science or politics or religion, that sometimes it just gets out of hand. It's a matter of trying to learn more about that perspective, of course, but not give away the principles that you currently have, that you feel comfortable having. But
Yeah.
definitely, it's a matter
Yeah.
of just to live and learn, because that's what we were put on this earth to do, to live and learn.
Hopefully you're right. I mean, I struggle with that too, because I have very traditional values, very conservative values. And, when I look around society, I'm seeing all these changes, and some of them good, some of them not. Um, but I'm challenged, EJ, I'm challenged every day in my
Oh
life,
yeah,
just as you are. Living is hard. Or is it
absolutely.
or is it my imagination? I don't know. It's either my imagination, my opinion, or reality. I can't tell which one it is. But no matter what, life is hard now,
Oh
in a
yeah, oh
lot of
yeah.
ways.
It is, as I
If
say
I
on my song,
Sure.
Hesitant, it is expensive to live, but just as expensive to die.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. In other words, life is hard. So appreciate life as we go through it. Absolutely.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, it is very interesting, because I have, just as you do, I have challenges in my life, and I don't know. I always like to wonder, what is the purpose of those challenges, But I don't know. I don't know. I do know that on my channel here at Aaron's Opinion TV, we have a section, and you were talking about spirituality. We have a section called Par, which is a playlist I developed with myself, Dustin Lindberg, and a pastor, actually, who doesn't always post in the group. But we started to get into these conversations where we would only take an hour, and we would only talk about religion and politics and philosophy and things like that. And those, I got to tell you, those conversations were, I got to tell you, fascinating, because really it got people out of their comfort zone. It really did. And it helped people to talk about the issues of spirituality that were really, really important. So the playlist on my channel, let me know afterwards in the chat over on WhatsApp if you want to learn more. But if you want to see some conversations where where we really had some conversations about that one topic of spirituality, Par is what you should request. And it's a great playlist, hopefully to which hopefully to which we will continue to add to in the future. But that is a very interesting concept in my life, for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. And all of that's good. And I think that that's a very, a very wise thing that, you've come to realize, as I have, that, having debates is hard. It's getting a lot harder.
Oh
And,
yeah.
but here's where I'm trying to figure this out. Help me out. And you guys at home, you can help us out too. So we have Aaron's Opinion, we have my podcast, but there are literally millions or thousands of other options, and there's all sorts of great podcasters from all over the world, many of them from the States and English speaking countries. But the one thing I've noticed is the more podcast episodes I see around the podcast sphere, it just seems like society is having a harder time debating and talking about important issues. Have you noticed that, EJ? What do you think?
I have come to notice that. And it is, again, as I say, each of us, we have such a level of passion. Some people could reach a level 5, some people reach a level 10, some people break the scale, which is when it winds up happening. It's, we're so passionate. And that's the thing is, we live in a world of 7 billion people. 7 billion people who want to have their voice be heard. But when it comes to listening to other people, sometimes we struggle with that, with all of that. And that's what it's all about in the whole educational process. It's not just being the one talking, but being the one listening, which is so important. It's what leads us to, having a good friendly debate. Like, for example, we could have about 15 minutes or so of maybe you disclosing your perspective and opinion, and rather than jumping back and forth trying to interrupt you about your perspective, I could be silent and just listening, absorbing, learning, which is exactly the whole concept of a debate, is being able to learn and then sharing your perspective so that way that other person can learn. Because everybody is entitled to their own opinion, entitled to being, whether you're a Trump supporter or Biden supporter, whether you are a Catholic or you're a Muslim or Buddhist, you name it. Everyone has the right to share their opinion. Nobody should be deprived of that. Nobody. And I do my absolute best to respect people's opinion and to, most importantly, listen, because that's a diplomatic way of doing things. A diplomat is being able to see two good, both sides of the quarter, not just one. And that's why, for me, it's so important to listen, not just talk, but listen.
Yeah. And it's something that podcasters have to practice. It's a art form, the art of listening and the art of pausing and resisting the urge to talk. It's hard. It's very tricky.
It
And
is.
I think the reason why it's tricky is because we want to make sure that we can say what we want to say. But the reality is, it's a very, very, very tricky balance, for sure, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that's that you're absolutely right. We need, society needs to do more listening at the right time. But then again, I say that, but then again, it depends on what they're listening to. This is the problem. There's a lot of problematic things to listen to that people listen to.
Absolutely. Yes.
So you've used this word debate several times, which means that there's some issues in your heart that you want to debate about. What are some of those issues?
One of those things is, with spirituality, I feel
Sure.
that everybody has a chance. Everybody. No matter their ethnicity, race, sexual preference, I believe that everybody has a chance. And to see that so many people try to draw lines in the sand rather than giving everybody a chance, they just draw all these lines that, oh, you can't be this, you can't be that in this church. And I'm like, he was created and she was created by the same hand that you were created. So who are you to be judging? And that's the issue that I've come to notice within the religious community. We've grown judgmental. Not saying that all of us have. Each of us have a level of, where, we stand. But I feel that everybody, and I say this passionately, everything that draws breath deserves to be loved. And that's what I feel that we are missing. We talk about all of these awesome things that God does, but the majority within the church fail to practice what they preach. And I feel that that's something that we gotta learn to do. It's not just saying, I'm a man of God. It's projecting it every single day and trying each and every day, understanding you cannot change a person. You can only change yourself. And just learn to be understanding and know that time evolves. It changes. It has its twists and turns. But at the end of the day, everything that draws breath deserves to be loved, because we were created by the same God. No matter if you have a different name for it, that's okay. But know that the same God you serve is the same God I serve. Whether I don't I choose not to be labeled, but at the end of the day, it's like I'm saying everything that draws breath deserves to be loved and deserves a shot. And that's where I stand, and that's what I feel that needs to be changed in the religious community. And as far as, politics, I feel that we need to grow a little more thicker skin in order to be able to disclose our opinion and learn to listen. I cannot stress that enough. It's hard, yes, it is very hard. But I can promise you, you might wind up learning something rather than just, feeling like you're being, targeted. I feel that we need to learn to grow thicker skin and understand that not everything that is being said to us is personal. It's just our opinion, you know? That's as much as I could give you as far as all of that goes. Oh,
That
yeah.
went great. That's a great. You have such a you're just so there's something so like entertain. Like I said before, there's something so comically attractive about you. You just have this person. You got that character. Something's in there, and it's the right thing. So I don't know what that something is. Might be the pet phoenix or something, but whatever
I'd
that
say
thing.
humor, because I'm a very humorous person. I feel
Yeah,
that,
I can
when
tell.
disclosing certain things, it's not just a matter of having that level of seriousness, but
Yeah.
also having a good sense of humor and, being able to position yourself in that person's shoe. I feel that first impression when introducing yourself is everything. Making
Completely.
somebody, like they're at home, which is why I do my absolute best, not just to give you just a fragment of who I am, but every bit of who I am as a person, not just as an artist. Because, yes, EJ the Phoenix is who they know, but make no mistake, when you look into my eyes, or you see me on the streets, or you see me in a studio, or on stage, you're not just looking at the artist, you're looking at the man.
Okay. All right. Well, we're looking at the Phoenix. We're looking at the man. All right. All right, man. Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. And I think you said something, well, everything you're saying is speaking to me. But one thing that you said that certainly spoke to me is when you said that people don't really want to listen. Well, I think you know what I think it is. I think the reason why people don't want to listen is because they're too afraid that you might say something that they might actually agree with.
I was actually
That's
about
why,
to say that. It's fear.
yeah, yeah, it's fear. It's fear that the other person might have the same view. They just might say it differently.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, what are some experiences you had in university, by the way?
I never actually went to university. I actually graduated high school
Hmm.
and I decided that I wanted to invest my time on becoming a full time producer and familiarize myself with GarageBand, familiarize myself with YouTube. And I wanted to do this all full time. And that was something that, from the point I was in high school, that was something I really wanted to do because I felt that just school really destroyed my desire of going further into college. It just became
Yeah.
exhausting. It became a competition, and I didn't want it to compete. I just simply wanted to learn, but it just made me feel like I had to compete. And I didn't want to compete with the system. I wanted to be above the system. I wanted to create something of my own, which is why I decided to go my own way. And if you happen to be somebody that goes to college, that's great. Continue to go down that path. If it's accommodable to you and it's helping you, continue. Do not stop. Just because I didn't go to college, that doesn't mean you don't have to go to college. You know? Continue to go about this the way that it's best for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's so good. That's so good. No, some people go to university, others don't. I graduated from university.
My
Um,
mom, she graduated with a bachelor's degree in teaching.
Ah,
Yeah.
I can tell you seem like someone who really likes to learn, and you seem really aware of the importance of learning. So
Yeah.
that's
Knowledge is
really
power.
seems so. Seems to be. Absolutely. Hoping that. Absolutely. Um, so what are some of your hobbies, some of your other interests? What is a hobby that you have that I would never expect an EJ the Phoenix to have?
Well, for one, video games. I'm a casual gamer. I'm not a full time gamer just because of the fact that my days and my time has been invested into becoming a full-time musician. So most times I'm over here in my computer, whether it is doing podcasting with Visioncast or getting interviewed by other people or just making my own songs. But I love playing video games like Call of Duty or just any type of game. I love video games. Uh, I love bike riding. I definitely love doing that. I love swimming, even though I don't exactly have a pool of my own in my area. But so every so often we will go to the water parks, and there will be those big pools that will be super deep, and I'll be able to swim on them, and it would be fun. Another thing is volleyball. When I was in Puerto Rico, that was one of the things. I actually used to be in the volleyball team for some time, and I loved it. But after those days, after I moved here to Florida, it's just like, I can no longer play volleyball or things like that. And I just decided, from that point on, if I wasn't gonna be doing sports, I wanted to do music and I wanted to pursue that. So a lot of the sports that I used to do, from basketball to baseball to volleyball, I am not as good as I used to be. Heck, even bowling is one of my favorite things to do. But I'm not that good because of the time that I spend mostly in the studio. But the times that I get to play, it's a lot of fun. It definitely is. I don't play to win, I play to have fun.
So good. So good. Yeah, I never got into sports. I was never, and even to this day, I'm not really into sports. I mean, I still love the FIFA World Cup when that thing is on every 4 years. That's a lot of fun. But yeah, that's really interesting. How did you? I mean, you were saying how it's volleyball is popular in Puerto Rico, but I never really got volleyball. It just seemed like kind of a silly sport that you play when you're bored. Like, what is? I've always wondered what is the attraction to volleyball. I just don't get it.
Well, for me, it was definitely just be. It's like when we used to be little kids and we would play with a balloon, and
Yeah.
balloons take a longer time to fall to the ground. And the main objective, as you would pass it to that person, it's not let the balloon hit the ground. And
Right.
because the balloons, they just took forever to fall. It was so much fun. In volleyball, I feel that what makes it so attractive is that concept of not letting it hit the ground. Only difference is a volleyball is not like a balloon that it'll take forever to fall. It goes fast, and if that hits you in the face, it's gonna hurt. And I know because that has happened to me before. But I love the fact that it has that concept of don't let it hit the ground and just try to move as fast as you can. It definitely tests your stamina, tests your speed, and I feel that that was something that I definitely enjoyed a lot. It was like playing with a ball instead of a balloon. But it's, again, that was the whole concept that volleyball goes for. Just a little more fast speed. That's all that I feel that it just brings a little bit more attraction to it.
Uh-huh. All right. All right. Cool. Cool. No, I definitely see what you're saying. That's good. For me, my opinion of it, it's too boring for me. But you know what? You made the point. I can see how that would be a very fun game to play for the exercise and the energy level. That
Mm-hmm.
aspect of it. I can totally get that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's incredibly fascinating. So outside of Puerto Rico and the States, like what other parts of the world have you been to, by the way?
Oh, okay. Well, I had the opportunity to be in North Carolina. I traveled to Asheville, and I was tubing with a nonprofit organization called Lighthouse of Central Florida in Orlando. And I used to be a student there, and they took us to North Carolina. We went snow tubing for the very first time, and that was a lot of fun. It
Sure.
was cold though. It was so cold, but good thing they had those coffee shops where they would hook you up with coffee and hot cocoa.
Oh
It was
yeah.
amazing. It was amazing. Another place I got to go was Atlanta, Georgia. I went to Six Flags, and that was a lot of fun because I'm a huge roller coaster fan. I love
Hmm.
anything that is extreme. They had a stand up roller coaster that instead of sitting down, you actually rode that standing up, and you just wore like a backpack like harness, and you would do loops, twists and turns, barrel rolls, standing up, mind you, and you would feel like you would actually be flying. And I was like, that is pretty cool. I never thought of a roller coaster that you could actually ride while standing up. Pretty interesting. And other than that, that was about the closest thing of traveling that I've done. I do want to explore the world a little more, and I feel that with music, I will definitely have that fair share of just touring the world, familiarizing myself with other cultures, explore something new. One thing I definitely would love to do is go cruising. I would love to be in the sea and do a cruise. I feel that that would be a lot of fun because I've
I've
traveled
done
by
several.
plane. I've been on a train before. I went to Tampa on train one time, and it was a lot of fun. But I've never been on a cruise before, and I would love to get that different experience because I've had the train, I've had the plane. That's the only thing that's missing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I took a riverboat cruise. My brother and I, a couple years back, we went on a cruise in Europe, and we went up and down the river, the Seine, I think. Yes, or Rhine, Rhine. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool. Really, really, really cool. Yeah, we stopped in a lot of towns in Germany, and then of course we stopped in a town in France. So then I was able to speak French,
Awesome.
which was very, very, very entertaining. And it was also too cold though. That was one factor. If you go to Europe, don't go New Year's Eve because it was so cold, so cold. Yeah, yeah.
I'll be sure to keep that in mind.
I would say Europe is great, spring, summer, that time of year, autumn, but winter in certain areas of Europe is awfully, awfully dark and cold. Yeah.
Mm.
I have a feeling, I have a sense in my podcaster ear. I have a feeling that there's a lot of questions you have for Aaron Richmond and Aaron's opinion. So, what do you really want to know about me?
Well, for starters, what inspired you to become a podcast from the very beginning?
Well, from the very beginning, I'll tell you from the very beginning, it was back in 2020 at the height of the pandemic. That was the year 2020 was the year that my guide dog passed away. But she was still alive when I created Aaron's Opinion in the spring of 2020. And EJ, what was going on is I was and still am doing teaching work, teaching English as a second language online. And in between my lessons, I would be listening to a lot of blindness related podcasts. However, these podcasts for the blindness community were not receptive. And in my opinion, neither receptive nor open to my opinions, to which I confess I have a lot to say and I have a lot of opinions. And as I will tell you, as I've told everyone else, a lot has happened to me in my 32 years so far. A lot has gone wrong and a lot has gone right. So I really like to share my opinions with people. What I was doing is I would go to various Facebook groups, with which, of course, Facebook groups are a blessing and a curse, depending on which one you join. By the way, you should join my Facebook group, Aaron's Opinion Podcasting Community. That's a great group to learn about the listeners, and just it's a great group for this podcast, by the way. But anyway, I was answering people's questions, and blind people would ask questions. Hey, what do you think about this issue? Should I go to university? Should I get a guide dog? Should I do this? Should I tell my parents this? And I would create an audio file and actually answer their question and send it to them. And I would say, today I'm going to talk about this topic that you answered, that you asked me about this. So let's talk about that. And then those talks ended up developing into a podcast. And then it occurred to me, that's a podcast. So that's how. Plus, I've always been a public speaker, in teaching, and I've just always loved using my voice. And my whole life has been public speaking, basically. So then I just put it all together, basically. Yeah.
Mm, that's amazing. That is
Yeah.
awesome.
That's where this whole idea stemmed from and came from. Yeah.
It's a beautiful idea, definitely. I'll be sure to join the group at 100%. And, I'll definitely looking forward to sharing that group, of course, because I want to be able to show as much support to you as possible,
You
seeing as
guys,
you giving me this opportunity
you
to
guys have
do.
been, I don't know what you're putting in your water, if it's the coffee, the food, the fish, the rice, the chicken. I don't know what you're putting into your food and water, but whatever you're eating is making you guys a really kind group. I got to tell you, I do not take this lightly, and neither do you. That I will tell you that we've had our fair share of disagreements here at Aaron's Opinion, and we've had some people in the past who have not been kind to me here on this podcast, and they are no longer with us. So just to meet someone, to know someone who truly is as kind as you and everyone here at VisionCast, where did you guys get this kindness concept from? I mean, I've never heard of this level of support. I mean, you guys are really, I'm not just saying it because it is part of the recording, but you guys are really, really nice people. I mean, I've never met any of you, although we all live in different parts of Florida, but we've never met in person. But I'm sure that if we did meet in person, I'm sure we would get along great. You guys are just so nice. So, yeah.
Well, I cannot speak for everybody, but I can definitely speak for myself. And you know what really led me to being a kind, loving person? It was just a matter that I was the kind of guy that was willing to not just take the success, but also take the failures, to live and to learn, to understand.
The great
In
answer.
life, you're going to succeed at times, but God is going to put you under the hydraulic press for the reason that He wants you to become the diamond that He has envisioned. So there will be times that we're gonna feel like life just gets tough and tough and tough. But one thing I came to understand is the tougher it gets, the closer you are to your dream. And that is
Oh.
why, I've come to take so much of, the knowledge that I've been able to acquire is, years of, mistakes that I've made along the way, as well as the times I've been able to triumph. And I happen to be somebody that, I don't want to just succeed with other people. I want to be there when their times are rough. I want to be there when they need a shoulder to cry on. I want to be there when they need someone to listen, because the inspiration to me for this was my grandfather, who unfortunately passed away. To me, that man was like a father figure. He was more than just a grandfather, and that, taught me the the understanding of just knowing that everybody has a different opinion, and knowing that, everybody's entitled to that opinion, and understanding that we're born different for a reason, and to help as many people as we can, as you say on your podcast, help one person one day, help a million tomorrow. And that's what I want to be able to uphold, and that's something that my grandfather taught me, is to help others. But the biggest principle that I take with me from him was the following: respect and be respected, love and be loved, care and be cared for.
You really, I mean, God really gave you a mind and a heart, and I really mean that. I mean, you really have come to understand your purpose here. You truly, truly have, man. So good, so good.
Thank you.
You guys at home, usually the people sitting behind the keyboards around the world, usually I would want to open the microphones, um, but here's how I want to actually do this. I want to give you one chance and one more moment here to ask me only one more question, EJ the Phoenix, to really make me sweat, to see if I'm really worth my salt as a podcaster. What do you want to ask?
If there was the one thing that you could change in this world with the knowledge that you have as a podcaster and be able to orientate people, what would be the subject you feel would be in best interest in you, in showcasing in Aaron's opinion, in helps to educate people and giving them a better understanding?
Well, certainly what I would change is I would change the fact that the majority of society is not like you and I in VisionCast. The majority of society are people that don't have thick enough skin and can't listen, won't listen, and and don't really understand how to be active listeners. So that's what really needs to change, is that people need to learn how to listen.
Yes.
That's the change that needs to happen. How do we do it? Well, I don't really know. Just try to keep on keep on producing beautiful music. For me, try to keep producing beautiful episodes, right? But until we come to a point where society is willing to listen with both of their ears, and until we get to a point where society is willing to talk with only one mouth, then we will always have this constant problem. But I have faith in you, VisionCast, you guys, all the people in my various groups here, specifically for Aaron's opinion. You people are the people. I'm not concerned about you guys. I am concerned about the rest of society, but you're going to be okay. I promise. But the other promise I make is that I don't know what the future holds. I wish I did. You know, if your pet phoenix ever tells you, "Here's the future," don't forget, tell Aaron Richmond, because Aaron Richmond would love to know what will happen in the next few years. I suspect that since my life has so many challenges now at this moment for a very variety of things and ways, I don't know. Maybe that means that something good is about to happen just around my future, sneaking around the corner, and I just don't see it yet.
For me,
Maybe.
it has always been
Yeah.
the as follows. The future, sometimes the reason we don't know so much about the future is as a way to test our faith, to see that we truly trust God, that we trust our Creator, or whatever name you wish to call Him. And I love the fact that I don't know my future, believe it or not, because it pushes me to have that faith and be able to embody that towards people that who might not have it, and be able to give that faith to people. And it's a matter of taking things day by day, to not be afraid, to not be discouraged, to rather know that as long as God continues to wake you up each and every day, you, my friend, you can handle anything. Even the scariest of times might come and you're gonna be just fine. It's a matter of just trust. Trust in His promises, because He will never let you down. Lots of people say this in the church I used to go, and that is that His love and mercy never fail. And it is true. It's very true. Which is why I'm not so much worried about the future, but much rather worry about the here and now. Because the here and now is so precious to live.
You
The
are
future will
so
set itself.
you are so right. All right, here, let's do it this way. Usually I would open the microphones for the people, but I don't want to do it that way tonight. I want to try something here. So you at home, go ahead, one at a time. If you have any final questions from our audience here in the studio, you guys can go ahead and type a question one at a time, and so that way I would be able to field a couple questions here. In the meantime, as 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 people leave, just as I'd say, type your question, people start fleeing.
Oh,
Really, was I that intimidating? Didn't know I was. If someone wants to get in touch, if someone wants to get in touch with EJ the Phoenix, how would they get in touch with EJ the Phoenix?
oh, absolutely. Well, you could get in touch with me on my YouTube channel. I do have a YouTube channel as well. You can search for EJ the Phoenix, which would be at EJ underscore the underscore Phoenix. You could also check me out on Instagram, which is the same as YouTube, with the same handle at EJ underscore the underscore Phoenix. For Twitter, it would be everything in small letters and all together, EJ the Phoenix. And then my Facebook fan page that I have, it's just EJ the Phoenix. Plain and simple. And then you could also stream my music on any music streaming platform of your choice as, you guessed it, EJ the Phoenix.
Sounds perfect. Sounds perfect. Like I said, well, thank you. Well, thank you. Yes. Yeah. If either one of you had a question, you can type, but that's that's good. I think we really covered it. I think we really covered the whole flavor here. So
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
really good. All right, everyone. Well, click the link in the description. Don't forget to listen to EJ's music here. And really a really good episode. And go ahead, since you know how I like to end the episode, go ahead and say the slogan. Go ahead.
Well, as my friend and brother likes to say, help one person today, help a million tomorrow.
For those of you who are still with us on YouTube, thanks for joining us this evening or this morning or afternoon, or whenever you choose to watch it. Like I said, comment below, like it if you like it, share it if you want to share it, subscribe, tickle the bell notification to know when I go live next here on YouTube with the next exciting video. Don't forget, if you want to be sure that you're invited automatically to the meetings when we hold them, Aaron's Opinion Podcasting Community, public Facebook group, great place to go. Aaron's Opinion Podcast, Facebook page, and all of that. All right, but I like to say that in the audios on the intros and outros for myself. Thank you, and definitely ditto Visioncast with JC and friends, especially a ditto to EJ the Phoenix. Stay blessed, keep singing. Don't worry, I'm going to make all sorts of requests for you to sing. Trust me, get ready to sweat. I'm going to make you sweat. Trust me. You can do it, and I have so many great musical projects for you right around the corner. In just a few moments, I'm going to go do some other stuff. But in just a few moments, I'm going to send you a private WhatsApp with some more questions that I have and some more ideas, some more knowledge. EJ the Phoenix, you are forever part and stuck to the Aaron's Opinion family. So you better love us because you aren't getting rid of us. Take care, everybody.
Already love you guys.
You are such a strong and wise. You know what? That really made that you make people feel better. Like you are so on the right track. I'm not worried about you at all. You're going to do fine.
I do what I can.
Well, that's what we do. We do what we can. Keep singing, keep listening, keep podcasting, keep helping one person today, helping a million people tomorrow. And we'll be back soon with another exciting episode. But EJ the Phoenix, mega dittos to you, man. Take care, everyone. Stay safe out there from across the universe and galaxy. Help one person today, help a million people tomorrow. We'll be back soon. Have a good night. I